The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday. And off we go for another week in paradise.
Is that what you want to call it? Another week in paradise?
That's it.
Because I'll tell you right now, I'm a little perturbed right off the top. And, you know, I'm going to show our viewers this. They may not be able to read it on screen.
You want me to put it up and you can...
Oh, no.
Oh, you got it? Oh, no, you got it. Beautiful.
I've got it here.
Oh,
and
it's nice. Yeah, you can see it.
This is a Pledge of Allegiance request form. Fill in all requested information. Complete and return to your child's school. It's got a line for the student's name, grade, and school. And it's a checkbox that says, I understand my rights as a parent, and I request that my child, noted above, be excused from reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. This request includes standing and placing his or her right hand over his or her heart. And it's supposed to be signed by the parent and date. And some parent returned it to the school with, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read, and I am so ashamed of this. And rightfully so. She should be ashamed of that. And you know what? The school systems that are sending this out to their parents, you nauseate me. You nauseate me. And you know what? If this is what you want to send out to parents to sign, maybe we should have the federal government not send you any federal money. Okay? Because they're pledging allegiance to their country.
Well, you know, this is just, you know, this is the, you know, this is when you see the exercise of your rights in this country get carried to the ludicrous extreme. So you don't have to pledge allegiance. You don't have to even like this country, but you take all the money and take all the welfare. But that's the way it is. But what they didn't tell them is that you check this box off and send it in, you put on a terrorist watch list because you're not pledging allegiance to the country. And I say good.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to, as I said, you know my position on hyphenated Americans
Yes,
and about
I do.
Americans. You're either an American or you're not an American, and you either have loyalty to this country and only this country, or you're not an American, as Teddy Roosevelt said. You know, a president of the United States who not only
What does he know?
who not only fought for this country and led the charge up San Juan Hill, but created the National Park Service and is, you know, one of the, to me, one of the greatest presidents we ever had. You know, he said it best, and he said many things that were good, and one of them was about the country being destroyed by being broken down into subgroups, hyphenated anything. He said, you know, you're either an American or not. And he did qualify that by saying some of the greatest Americans he knew were naturalized Americans, Americans who were not born here, who came here, but who were really, you know, proud to be Americans. And unfortunately, that, you know, over the course of the last 100 years or so, that seemed to be lost. When people got here and became Americans, they were so proud to become Americans and be in America that, you know, they were, you know, they were the first people to pick up the flag. And now it's almost like, well, you know, I'm here, I'm entitled, and I'm still going to keep all my loyalties to my other country, but you just keep giving me the money and
Keep giving me that EBT card.
keep
baby.
giving me that stuff, or giving me a job that I can't get in my other country, because if your other country was that good, why the hell did you leave?
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know, I'm gonna. This comes with a disclaimer. Please have your barf bag ready.
Uh-oh.
This is an interesting scenario, and see if you can see what's wrong with this picture.
God, look at that. Are those the Power Rangers?
I think so.
I think they're the Power Rangers.
But
yeah.
you know, I have to ask, where's the gun?
Yeah.
I don't know where the gun is.
God, look at those choppers on the man.
Yeah,
what
well, you
a
know,
set of
maybe
what a
David-
set of
maybe David-
ivories he's got.
Maybe David Steinhoff did some, caps
Yeah.
or something. But, it's interesting to see that you've got, Carol Fiola, Linda Pereira, Ken Pacheco, Jasiel Correia, and then former Mayor Will Flanagan. And behind that's Joe Bisco and a few other minions. And it's very interesting because this was a party to celebrate the work that Kenny's done in city government. But remember, that work was so wonderful that Jasiel gave him a pay cut, put him in a department that was newly created, and we said it on this show that he would be gone within a month, and he was. Okay, so Jasiel, you're there, you're duplicitous. Guess what? Don't piss on Kenny's head and tell him it's raining, because that's not the way it is. I can understand Will. All right, and then you had to put Will and Jasiel side by side. I'm waiting for the conspiracy theorists to come out and say that there's a gun or a knife in his back or something. But there's no dashboard there, so I mean.
Well, it just goes to prove the old adage, politics makes strange bedfellows.
Yes, it does.
And it's amazing when it's but that's what politicians are by nature. And that's one of the reasons that people are getting fed up with career politicians. They are duplicitous by nature. They'll stand next to their worst enemy and smile and shake hands and toast them and give them kudos when all the time when they're slapping them on the back and shaking their hand, they're just looking for the soft spot in their back to stick the knife. So, that's politics. We all know it, and in a few months they'll all be throwing bombs at each other if they're running for mayor. So we have potentially 3 mayoral candidates in that line of.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in 1 second because it's interesting because I don't like to always bring up the weekend flush on Monday, but this past weekend flush, which was released last night at 9 p.m. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to it. You'll get it in your email. You won't miss a story. This one actually got feedback from elected officials, city officials, state officials. I mean, you name it. People that I did not even expect to make comments made comments. And many of them were, "You're absolutely right. I agree with this almost wholeheartedly except for." And so we had to put out a little disclaimer last night. Joanne Bentley is now a resident of the city of Fall River, although everything out there says she lives in Somerset. She is a member of the Fall River business community, and so the mayor appointed somebody from Fall River. But the basis of this story is still the same because she wasn't the basis, she was just an add-on. And I gotta say this.
And is that moved back in temporary while she's on these boards? And,
Maybe, I don't know.
making, who knows? If it's
Yeah.
permanent, kudos to her.
Right.
Nice
And
to see
but here's
someone
the thing.
moving back.
This article, you have to read it, is based solely in...
The fact is the fact.
What was that again, Mr. Mayor?
The fact is the fact.
So,
And the truth is the truth.
and the truth is the truth. And this broke down every single lie, misrepresentation that the mayor spoke about at length on Thursday with City Councilor Ray Mitchell, which we have the audio here. But I found it very interesting that was one of the most well-received columns ever. Now let's move on to the Pravda. They claim that they have several people running for mayor, and I'm going to list the list that they have as strong potentials. Richard Cabaceres, Richard Renzi, Sam Sutter, Carol Fiola, Jasiel Correia, Cliff Ponte, Carlos Souza, and Will Flanagan. So let's address them one at a time, in the order of probably not. Carol Fiola is probably not going to run for mayor. One major reason is if she were to be elected mayor, her husband would be out of a job. It would be a direct conflict for him to serve as the vice president or president of the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction and his wife being mayor. We have had this argument with the state rep's seat and several other issues, so I doubt that's going to happen. Jasiel's going to run because he would be a one-term mayor, which he's probably going to be anyhow. Cliff Ponte hasn't announced he's going to run. He's not even fostering that. We've spoken to him at length here, and he doesn't know. People are asking him to, but he hasn't made that decision. Renzi did announce that he's going to run. Sam has made a few phone calls to people asking what they think, but he has not been committed either way. Neither has Will Flanagan. He has not committed either way. Carlos Caesar has not made a commitment at all. A group of people got together and formed an exploratory committee. They are vetting out the city. They're vetting out the support. And if they can find a significant number of people who are willing to support him, they may be able to get Carlos to commit to running for mayor. But he hasn't made a commitment either way. And this exploratory committee, by the way, was not formed with the knowledge or approval of Carlos Caesar. That's how disgusted people in Fall River are. They're reaching out to people. They don't even care if the people want to run. They're going to make them run. But Carlos has not removed the possibility. Richard Cabaceres, last time I spoke to him on this, would not be committal and non-committal, but it appears that he has committed to running for mayor. So that's the basis of what the Herald News, or Pravda, thinks is going to be mayor. And then the usual names pop up. You have Mark Costa, who I think pops up every election cycle or two. Alan Sylvia. Sean Kadim is always still out there in left field on whether or not he's going to run. Linda Pereira, she's reached out to several people, including myself. We've spoken at length at it, and I made it very clear to her that I don't think that on a one-on-one race she's going to do very well. And of course, she said, last time I had a one-on-one, I was fighting some personal and health issues, and I said, I understand that. And then, of course, Mike Mioza. So you have to laugh a little bit that they're already putting up the lines, and it's not even past the presidential election yet.
Well, that's an indicator of look, we have perennials,
Right.
And
I'm surprised Ron Cabral's not on this list.
yeah, he will be very shortly. But the fact is that this many people are being discussed, even though I think a few of them, in my opinion, a state rep would be nuts to leave that nice job up in Boston with all the perks and all the fact that nobody ever knows what you're doing.
That's right.
You could spend 30 years up there and nobody ever knows.
We had a mayor who did that.
That's exactly right. And then when he came to Fall River and people saw the way he operated, they booted him after one term.
Exactly.
He thought he was in the State House and he was the Speaker of the House.
Right.
Well, the fact is that, you can go up there, you've got a nice gig, you get your mileage, stipends, you get all kinds of stipends. You're up there being a big legislator. Nobody knows what the hell you do. You go up there, you come back, oh, I brought money in, I did this, I did that, and you get elected again, and you stay up there forever. Very rarely do we see a high turnover in the state reps because they're basically like the CIA. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. They just come down and tell you how good they're doing. All I know is that they always vote for a lot of taxes and spend a lot of money and don't save any.
And make sure they don't give you
So,
a tax holiday.
I don't think Alan Sylvia, Carol Fiola, besides the fact that Carol Fiola's husband is in that equation, I don't even just, but the sheer number of people, and that list could expand, just goes to show how disappointing this mayor's first 8 months in office has been. And that's not a good indicator for him because they're already bantering around a field that's almost as thick as the city council race with his 9 seats. So, this early in the game, this kind of talk is an indicator that a lot of people aren't happy and a lot of people are being asked to run. That doesn't mean they're all going to run or any of them are going to run. But the fact is, it's an indicator that people aren't happy.
Well, I'm going to again use the mayor's quote. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah, well,
I thought that back and forth banter was wonderful.
Well,
but, let's look at Westport now.
oh,
Westport's doing something that Fall River just undid. Westport's going back to one Department of Public Works instead of multiple. Oh, is that called downsizing government?
yeah, it's called consolidation. It's called like spending less money. Don't create more departments and more department heads. It's kind of consolidation, restructuring in a way that's better for the taxpayer. The difference is Westport's a small community, and those people are extremely politically active.
That's
I
right.
mean, there have been literally lynch mobs at Westport town meetings about when it comes to tax increases. So, the fact is, it's nice to see. And what I like about this, they're talking about this out in the open.
Yep.
With not a 11th hour under the gun, we got to do this. They're looking at this thing, they're looking at it, and they're going to try to make a rational and logical decision in the best interests of the taxpayer, which, kudos, again.
Yeah, again, so it's just very interesting that a next door neighbor either saw how screwed up this mayor did this with separating the departments and said, no, we can't do it, or there's somebody over there with half a brain that knew that this just makes financial sense. I'm for the sake of argument, I'm going to lean on somebody had half a brain, but
the ironic part about it is they're trying to do the right thing, which
Exactly.
is shrink government, and what's really ironic is that town, we probably have more employees in one of our larger departments in the city than that entire town employs.
Right.
And and our budget is,
and they wonder why it's astronomical.
It's astronomical compared to theirs. Yet, that little town has enough common sense to try to save the taxpayers' money, to try to actually make the burden on the people, to leave more money in their pocket so they can actually, spend it and stimulate the economy. So
I wonder if they got that from those states that have no state tax, lots of employment, I don't know. Well, Massachusetts is once again going to take on the bull, and they're going to get rid of jobs. They're going to get rid of the toll collectors along the MassPike. Now, for those of us who remember, I think 10 years ago the MassPike was supposed to be toll-free. We still haven't gotten there.
You'll never get there.
Yeah.
yeah.
And now they're going to put in the gantries so that everyone has to have one of the little transponders. So you have to laugh at this, because if you don't have a transponder and you go through, they're going to take a picture of your license plate and they're going to send you a bill with an undetermined surcharge. So the toll's going to be 90 cents, but the surcharge is going to be $10 to collect it. This is going to be interesting because other states have done this, and they do it quite effectively. The problem that you have is that, number one, you're going to be putting out of work a lot of people. And like everything else, they don't equate the unemployment costs or the bump costs at all. So,
yeah, but don't forget, CJ, these people that you're putting out of work, they don't matter.
No.
Because they're the lowest, that's the totem pole.
Right.
You never see the state laying off any $300,000 a year, administrators.
Nope, not at
or
all.
$200,000 a year administrators. That just keeps growing. We never see anybody. It's always the lowest. It's always the lowest person on the totem pole. It's always get rid of the dishwasher, buy a dishwashing machine, get rid of everybody, that's the thing. Well, you know, the fact is they've gotten rid of the middle class in this country, and in this city, we've gotten rid of virtually everybody virtually everybody that's got a decent job. They've all moved out.
Right.
So they're being very successful at downsizing, except unlike Westport, this is not a positive downsize.
That's
I'm
right.
not saying it. Look, you got to save money, but replacing everybody, we've eliminated, and then, you know what, like I said, it just boggles my mind. Nobody can figure out why the economy sucks. It's because nobody in this country has got jobs anymore.
That's it.
They can't afford anything. You idiots. The rich people can do anything they want, but they don't spend that much money unless you're a Ferrari dealer or you're selling Gucci bags.
Right.
But the fact is, what keeps small businesses and what infuses the fundamental foundation of our economy are working people who go and get necessities. And you lay them all off, nobody's got jobs, and they're going to get their wish. I got a book that was written over 50 years ago that basically said that the multinational banks wanted to eliminate, have a universal wage throughout the world, and basically have only two classes, the rich and the poor,
Yeah.
just like it was at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
You know, Chip, the worst part about all of this is that last week, the governor and his team of geniuses in the Department of Labor and the State House, the Senate, ruled that Amazon is a distributor. Now, the federal government classifies them as a retailer. But what does the federal government know? They're a distributor. With that classification from Representative Alan Sylvia, Representative Carol Fiola, Representative Paul Schmidt, State Senator Michael Rodrigues, Governor Baker, the Department of Labor, Kenny Fiola, you name them, you can put them all in the same line. That means if you have a job at Amazon, when you have to work on Christmas Day, and by the way, they are open 365, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You do not get time and a half. You do not get overtime. You don't get anything. You work 40 hours, 10-hour days, 4 days a week. No overtime, no holidays. So if you go in and work Thanksgiving, because they are open Thanksgiving, guess what? Too bad. You're working for the same amount of pay. That's how state government, that's how your representatives, that's how your senator are giving you the screw job. Because as we know very clearly, there is only one thing that they know how to do.
Screw you, taxpayer!
Thank you very much. and this is what happens.
Yeah, they
This is what
protect the
happens.
big corporations. That's
right.
what they do. That's, the big money gets the big breaks.
it.
The little guy gets replaced by a camera.
Yeah, I know. So today, GE officially becomes a Boston company.
Oh, GE, one of my favorite companies. Yeah,
Five facts about the $281 billion firm. On Monday, they officially become a Mass-based company, Massachusetts-based now. Market cap $281 billion. Employees 330,000 worldwide. $115 billion in 2015 revenues. $6.1 billion in net losses. And total debt is $195 billion. They have more debt than Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Maine total.
And I would object to that because I also have an article about GE. It's one of my favorite companies and examples of. You know how much taxes they pay? Zero. I think the last year I looked at, they got some obscene, almost $1 million. I don't know how many millions of dollars back because GE also employs 165 tax lawyers.
That's right.
And this is the reason that they come up with these kind of numbers. They got $195 million in loss and everything else. But, you don't run a company with that kind of loss. Find out what the CEO and the board of directors of GE makes. The fact is that a lot of GE's employees are overseas working for crap, and they're making billions of dollars, and they find every tax loophole in the world, and they pay virtually no taxes. So again, Massachusetts applauding another predatory big company that does what? Let's eliminate, and it's almost gone anyway, but thank you very much, politicians and big companies. You have succeeded again in virtually eliminating the middle class. They're going to be as rare as the dodo bird. Somebody in the middle class. But that's the way it is. They want to bring the world, not just this company, not just this state, not just this nation, because it's a global economy, as they like to say so much now. They want to bring this back to where there's only two kinds of people: the rich and the poor. And guess what? It's been like that most of the time. Yeah. You remember the old days where you had the lord of the castle during the feudal era, and all the serfs were running around tilling the soil and
now they play Pokemon.
Now they play Pokemon. Well, that's another diversion to keep the idiots from realizing what they're doing to them.
But here's what GE did to kind of offset the fact that they don't pay Boston any tax and they don't pay Massachusetts any tax. They partnered with the Massachusetts General Hospital, the GE Foundation, to generate $50 million to Boston Community Funding for opiate control.
Yeah.
They're going to solve opiates problems. The headline reads, GE's first task in Boston, help solve the opioid epidemic.
Have you noticed something, CJ? Number one, this is a tax write-off.
That's right.
Number two, have you noticed all the General Electric commercials on television lately? Yeah. The girl working on a jet engine and saying how GE is also not only it's a diverse company. They're trying to boost up their public image so everybody gives them kudos rather than looking at the fact these rich son of a bees do not pay anything. They're just like the TIF. They pay nothing. They give nothing, and their employees. They don't have, unless you're an executive, you're not, GE is not a super company to work for on the lower levels. So, doth protest too much, as the Bard once said. They're spending way too much time promoting themselves. All of a sudden, I haven't seen a GE commercial in years. Now every time I turn on the television, I got that girl sitting in front of the jet engine talking to that kid making ridiculous statements about the vending machine and the jet engine. But it's all about how great General Electric is. And now they're going to solve the opioid epidemic. Well, we've been trying to solve that epidemic since the 70s, and we haven't done it. And, you're going to be giving $50 million to your friends in the healthcare industry, and you guys can all go figure out another way to screw the taxpayer.
Well, and again, as you said, what do they pay?
I know nothing. Nothing.
That's it. They know. But, this is the way it is around here. And of course, we have tons of citizens which buy this line of bull. Okay, you have Prov to turn around and say, "Oh, the jobs are coming next month and it's going to start." But meanwhile, they didn't say, "Oh, but by the way, you're not getting paid any overtime. By the way, it doesn't matter."
And by the way, we don't have almost anybody from Fall River working there anyway.
We're not going to talk about that at all. So, and in the last 40 seconds, the Patriots are upset. The Dallas Cowboys used their trademarked phrase, "Do your job." They put it in their new training center. So. You have to admit,
well, in deference to and I don't like the Cowboys, but I got to tell you, Patriots fans, you didn't invent that slogan. I'm sorry. Do your job was around a long time ago, and because the Messiah Belichick said it, doesn't mean that it's his. So, and I'm not accusing Belichick of plagiarism, but the fact is, do your job's been around for a long time.
But the Patriots did trademark it, so
yeah, well,
they got 3 trademarks on it. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you Wednesday. Stay angry and make sure you're represented.
That's right. Do your job. Stay angry.